Welcome, everyone. This is our October webinar, Make Action Speak Louder Than Pink. Thanks so much for joining us today. My name is Kim Irish, and I'm the Program Manager at Breast Cancer Action. I lead our Think Before You Pink and Milking Cancer campaigns, along with our policy work. Today you'll be hearing from me and from Dr. Gail Sulick, author of the book Pink Ribbon Blues. So a couple of quick announcements. Stay tuned for our next webinars in November, which will focus on safe cosmetics. You can find details about the dates and times on our website at bcaction.org. Breast Cancer Action doesn't take money from any corporations that profit from or contribute to the breast cancer epidemic. Our work is largely supported by individual donors. Please consider making a donation today to support work like this educational webinar. Now I'm going to go over the agenda of the webinar and just a few rules of webinar etiquette with you. So presentation of Make Action Speak Louder Than Pink will last between 30 and 35 minutes. We'll have about 20 minutes or so for questions at the end. Everyone except the speakers will be muted during the webinar to cut down on background noise to ensure that everyone can hear well. To ask a question, you can type it during the webinar in a pop-up box that should appear on your screen. We'll be keeping track of the questions, and we'll do our best to answer as many as we can. Excuse me. You can email us afterwards if for some reason we don't get to your question at info@bcaction.org. And if you experience any sound quality issues during the webinar, try hanging up and calling back in. Usually that will fix the problem. You are also able to call webinar customer support at 800-263-6317. That's 800-263-6317. If you have any trouble with the visual part of the presentation, try closing any open windows on your computer and then just run the presentation. Usually that will fix that problem. We want you to get involved with Breast Cancer Action. This webinar is a great way to do that. And then stay tuned for other ways that we'll mention later on. So once again, I'm going to get started here. The agenda for the webinar. During this webinar, we want you to learn more about the pink ribbon, its prominence on products and at events throughout the year, but especially in October. We'll be discussing who the pink ribbon really benefits and whether Breast Cancer Awareness Month is really what is needed to end the epidemic. And finally, we'll provide you with a number of ways that you can take action and let you know how to get our just-released Think Before You Pink toolkit. For anyone who is new to Breast Cancer Action, here's our mission. We carry the voices of people affected by breast cancer in order to inspire and compel the changes necessary to end the breast cancer epidemic. We have three main program priority areas: putting patients first, where we advocate at the Food and Drug Administration in favor of treatments that are less toxic, more effective, and less expensive than those already available. We also provide information about breast cancer to anyone who needs it. Creating healthy environments, where we work to reduce the involuntary exposures people encounter that put them at risk for breast cancer by holding corporations accountable for unhealthy products and practices. We also support legislation that would better protect us from chemicals in our environment and that would make personal care products safer. And finally, eliminating social inequities related to breast cancer, where we work to create awareness that it's not just genes, but social injustices like political, economic, and racial inequalities that lead to disparities in breast cancer incidence and outcomes. And now I want to introduce the wonderful Dr. Gail Sulick, who is a social science researcher and writer, currently affiliated with the University at Albany, Department of Women's Studies. She has expertise in medical sociology and interdisciplinary community research, and specifically the culture and industry of breast cancer. She is author of Pink Ribbon Blues, How Breast Cancer Culture Undermines Women's Health, and she also writes the Pink Ribbon Blues blog, which has over 125,000 readers. Gail will be featured on NPR's All Things Considered this weekend on Sunday evening to speak about the pink backlash. Welcome, Gail.
Thank you, Kim. It is a pleasure and honor to be with you all today. Thank you.
Great. So I'm going to get started by talking a little bit about the history of the pink ribbon. In the early 1990s, A 68-year-old woman named Charlotte Haley, who was alarmed by the number of breast cancer diagnoses in her immediate family, attached peach-colored ribbons to postcards and distributed them to everyone she knew. The postcards read, "The National Cancer Institute's annual budget is $1.8 billion. Only 5% of that goes for cancer prevention. Help us wake up our legislators in America by wearing this ribbon." Self Magazine and Estee Lauder Cosmetics heard about her ribbons and asked permission to use them as a promotional tool during Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Haley turned them down because it was too commercial for her. Self and Estee Lauder consulted some lawyers who told them to change the color. Focus groups said that pink was soothing, comforting, and quieting. Thus, the pink ribbon was born. Unfortunately, however, Charlotte Haley's message about cancer prevention is all too often lost among the pink ribbons.
Breast cancer has come a long way in the last 30 years. Radical mastectomies are no longer the norm. There are a number of treatment options that are available, and importantly, women no longer have to hide the fact that they've been diagnosed with breast cancer. And the pink ribbon, with strong advocacy, was an important part of these gains. It made women's health a public and a political priority. It succeeded in increasing women's participation in research, and it increased federal funding for research. The NCI budget that was only $1.2 billion when Charlotte Haley first created her ribbon is now over $7 billion, and it allocates over $700 million to breast cancer alone. The Department of Defense Breast Cancer Research Program also has allocated over $2.5 billion for breast cancer research since 1992. But unfortunately, the awareness that is now most visible around breast cancer is limited to the simple recognition that breast cancer exists, that people should be afraid of it, that they should get mammograms, and that they should display pink and donate to the cause. And this brand of awareness detracts from the deeper issues surrounding breast cancer and really ignores the importance of getting to the bottom of the epidemic and avoiding the disease in the first place, which is something that Charlotte Haley's peach ribbon stood for. Kim?
Thanks, Gail. Breast Cancer Action believes that today pink ribbons often are distractions from the real issues affecting so many women with breast cancer. Pink ribbons don't address many key facts, such as that the lifetime risk has steadily increased over the past 60 years, or that not enough funding goes into prevention or treatments for women with metastatic disease, or that African American women get more aggressive breast cancer earlier than other women. Family history and heredity accounts for only 10% of all breast cancer cases at most, a fact that may be surprising. More than half of all breast cancers are from as yet unknown causes, which means there is still a lot we don't know about breast cancer. However, there's growing recognition that environmental factors are contributing to the increased incidence of breast cancer. The President's Cancer Panel, made up of cancer experts who report to the President on the activities of the National Cancer Institute, declared in 2010 that the panel was particularly concerned to find that the true burden of environmentally induced cancer has been grossly underestimated, and the American people, even before they are born, are bombarded continually with myriad combinations of these dangerous exposures. This 2010 report is the first by the panel to focus on environmental factors, and it recommends improving regulation of chemicals linked to cancer. It also calls on President Obama to use the power of his office to remove the carcinogens and other toxins from our food, water, and air that needlessly increase health care costs, cripple the nation's productivity, and devastate American lives. These facts and others are available in the Breast Cancer Action Think Before You Pink Toolkit, which was just released earlier this month. If you go to bcaction.org/toolkit, you can download the toolkit and get this information and much more. Gail?
Thank you, Kim. And those facts that really do demand action are often replaced with other kinds of awareness activities. So they often are actually hidden beneath other kinds of awareness and fundraising campaigns. And notably, some of those campaigns are the breast cancer walks and runs. And there are millions, literally millions of people who participate in these kinds of events every year. And many of us are asked by our friends and family members to support these events, either by sponsoring their participation, and sometimes they even ask us to join them. And many people feel good about participating because there really are a number of positive benefits. They're fun. They're a way to get people outside. They're physical. And taking a walk outside almost always will make a person feel better than if they stayed at home on the couch. And they're also a highly personal way to get involved. When you raise money or participate in an event, you see your contribution in a very straightforward way. And at the same time, coming together in support of a common cause is usually empowering. And since people have been personally affected, strong sense of community. There are, however, some downsides despite these positives, and they're very important to consider. Walks and runs in particular are actually quite inefficient ways to raise money. They have high overhead, and on average, about 50% of every dollar raised is needed to pay for the event itself. Few fundraising events actually explain what the money raised is used for, and to find out, a participant would have to follow the organization closely, read their annual report, their audited financial materials, and then evaluate all the evidence. And often this information is hard to find if the event organizers keep track of it at all. And over the years, the huge increase in the sheer number of fundraising events, which are happening all across the country, especially exercise-based events, they need to also vie for public space and time on the public calendar. And this competition makes the organizing and the marketing of these events even more reliant on corporate sponsors in order to make them fun and worthwhile. And as a result, corporate sponsors line the venues with their pinked products, using breast cancer itself as a revenue stream, and sometimes the products and services that are connected to the event are part of an entire pink washing portfolio. There's also concern that the festivities surrounding these types of events and others also detract from deeper issues. And some diagnosed people also feel marginalized by the fanfare and believe that the events trivialize the disease. Next slide. What is clear is that the rise of breast cancer awareness as it's packaged today for public consumption is often reliant on corporate use of the pink ribbon. And anyone, any company, can use a pink ribbon, not the trademarked pink ribbons, but any other pink ribbon, to indicate their connection and their support to the cause of breast cancer. But the branding of breast cancer in this way also creates potential problems. For one, no one's responsible for checking how much money is raised through the sale of a product or of a service. No one's responsible for following up on which organizations funds are going to, or investigating whether those organizations are worthy recipients in the first place. No one's responsible for looking into whether the products sold in the name of the cause have harmful chemicals that might actually increase the risk of breast cancer and other health problems. No one is responsible for considering how much a company benefits from its pinked product placement. To give an example, Yoplait yogurt of General Mills, which is the #1 yogurt in America, accounts for $1.1 billion of GM's $11.2 billion in sales. In 1998, Yoplait teamed up with Komen in the Save Lids to Save Lives campaign, and every October, Yoplait manufactures yogurt with pink lids Consumers send them into a collection center during a specific time period, and Yoplait then makes a donation of 10 cents per lid, guaranteeing a minimum donation of $500,000 and a cap of $1.5 million. In 2008, Yoplait received over 15 million pink lids, hitting its $1.5 million cap for the first time. 15 million yogurts, less 10 cents per lid donation, yielded Yoplait 5.9 million in yogurt sales. And that year, GM reported a 14% sales jump for its Yoplait division. It's clear that that part of the cause marketing equation works. Kim?
Thanks, Gail. So what's pinkwashing? Breast Cancer Action coined the term pinkwasher in 2002. It's defined as a company or an organization that claims to care about breast cancer by promoting a pink ribbon product, but at the same time produces, manufactures, and/or sells products that are linked to the disease. Today, the term pinkwasher is used widely among breast cancer organizations, the media, and activists. Breast Cancer Action's Think Before You Pink campaign was started in 2002 in response to the growing concern about the overwhelming number of pink ribbon products and promotions on the market. The campaign calls for more transparency and accountability by companies that take part in breast cancer fundraising, and it encourages consumers to ask critical questions about pink ribbon products. I'm going to go over a few of our campaign highlights. In 2008, just as Gail was talking about, with the Yoplait yogurt, Breast Cancer Action took on the dairy industry with our Yoplait Put a Lid on It campaign. We were concerned that Yoplait was using RBGH, recombinant bovine growth hormone, in its yogurt, while simultaneously raising money and awareness about breast cancer through the pink yogurt lids. RBGH is an artificial growth hormone that's given to cows to get them to produce more milk. Its use stimulates production of another hormone called insulin growth factor 1, or IGF-1. Studies have shown that elevated levels of IGF-1 have been associated with different types of cancer. Activists took part in our online campaign, and the advocacy paid off. Yoplait manufacturer General Mills agreed to remove RBGH from its yogurt, and soon Dannon, another major yogurt manufacturer, followed. In 2009, RBGH was unfortunately still on the market, so Breast Cancer Action decided to go straight to its source, the maker of RBGH, Eli Lilly. We knew that targeting a huge pharmaceutical company like Eli Lilly would be really difficult, and that milking cancer would be a multi-year campaign. For the past 2 years, we've connected with many partner organizations and rallied thousands of people in support of stopping the manufacture of RBGH. Last year, in 2010, we discovered that Susan G. Komen for the Cure had partnered with KFC, also known as Kentucky Fried Chicken, for something that they called Buckets for the Cure, where portions of the proceeds of pink buckets of fried chicken were donated to Komen. We were outraged that Komen thought this was an appropriate partnership, given their own recommendations about eating a healthy diet. What the Cluck was our response to them, and it highlighted the fact that Komen and KFC targeted underserved communities through this campaign, whose residents often struggle to stretch their food dollars and are dependent on inexpensive meals. And then this year, 2011, we discovered that Komen commissioned a perfume that contains unhealthy ingredients that aren't listed on its packaging, and Raise a Stink was born. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a couple of minutes. So next I want to talk a little bit about the critical questions for conscious consumers that Breast Cancer Action has developed for our members, for the general public, to ask when they encounter pink ribbon products. You know, as we all know, we want to do something to end the breast cancer epidemic. People have very good intentions and want to make a real difference. But the question is how? How can you do that as an individual? We're asked all the time how people can best take action on their own and what they can do that is an alternative to the pink ribbon culture that's so prominent right now. We think it's really important to educate yourself so that you're an informed consumer, so that the companies are not exploiting your good intentions, and that we're demanding transparency and accountability from companies that are engaged in pink ribbon marketing. So any company can put a pink ribbon on its products, as Gail mentioned, and pink ribbons aren't regulated by any agency. just because there's a pink ribbon on a product, it does not necessarily guarantee that money from that product sales are being donated to a breast cancer organization or programs. If you can't tell how much money from your purchase will go to support breast cancer programs, consider donating to a charity of your choice instead. So this really is a good example of this first critical question to ask, which is, does any money from this purchase go to support breast cancer programs, and how much? An example of this particular question was last year in 2010, Dansko Shoe Company sold pink ribbon clogs. Consumers likely thought that a portion of their purchase went to a breast cancer program. However, purchase of the clogs was not connected to Dansko's donation. None of the portion of the sales went toward their already set donation of $25,000 to Susan G. Komen for the cure. No matter whether or not you bought the clogs, the donation was the same. Gail, do you want to? Yeah.
Yeah. I was just going to share a really good example that just came through my email this morning.
Oh, great.
It's actually called the Mommy and Me Pet Collar and Bracelet by Andrea Levine, and it's a set of matching bracelets for people and their pets in metallic pink from her Peace and Love collection. And the signature paw print charm is available in pink and silver, or pink sapphire and gold in a number of matching styles. It's pink. It's part of a Products for a Cause campaign, but there is no indication of how much of the sale, if anything at all, goes anywhere for the cause of breast cancer. It's just pink. It's for the cause, and they want people to buy it. No money, no organization. Kim?
Thanks. The second critical question is, what organization will get the money? What will they do with the funds? And how do these programs turn the tide of the breast cancer epidemic? Some companies that sell pink ribbon products and donate a percentage of each sale to breast cancer programs don't actually indicate which organization will get the money. The consumer is left on their own to trust that the organizations are putting the funds to good use. If money goes to services, are they reaching the people who need them most? How do programs that do screening ensure that women who are diagnosed get the treatment that they need? And how do breast cancer awareness programs address the fact that we already know that breast cancer is a problem and that we need action in order to end the epidemic? An example of this particular, where this critical question would come in, is the photo on your screen, the Kisses for a Cure music box. It's advertised online by its maker, the Bradford Exchange, with the following statement: a portion of the proceeds from this music box will be donated to help fight breast cancer. It's not clear from that statement what breast cancer organization would benefit, how much money they would receive, and what programs or work would be funded by the donation.
And there are numerous examples from the Bradford Exchange. They have an entire product line, also the Hamilton collection, and really any number of pink ribbons of support for the cause, support for research, or support from, and I see this one a lot, breast cancer organizations. No detail. Kim?
Thanks, Gail. The third critical question is there a cap on the amount the money is there a cap on the amount the company will donate? Has this maximum donation already been met, and can you tell? Some companies say that they'll donate a portion of the proceeds from the sale of a particular pink ribbon item and then put an arbitrary cap on the maximum donation. Once that maximum is met, the company may continue to sell the pink ribbon product without alerting customers that no additional funds are going to be contributed to breast cancer organizations. This means that you could purchase a product intending that some of your purchase cost is donated to a breast cancer organization, but in fact none of it will be. An example of that is that in 2010, Reebok marketed a line of pink ribbon footwear and apparel at prices that ranged from $50 to $100, so not inexpensive stuff. Though it promoted the fact that some of the pink ribbon product sales would be donated to the Avon Breast Cancer Crusade, they'd set a limit of $750,000, regardless of how many items were sold. And there was no way to alert customers once that maximum donation was met.
Another example, actually based on the continuation of the Yoplait example I gave earlier, is it is so important to notice not only the cap on the amount donated, but also the time frame within which the company will give money. All of those pink-lidded yogurts that were left over after the promotion ended, well, they were still for sale, and people still bought them to raise money for the cause. But that train had already left the station. The promotion was over. And at that point, total sales go to the company. Kim?
That's a really good point, Gail. And then the final question for conscious consumers is, does this purchase put you or someone you love at risk for exposure to toxins linked to breast cancer? What is the company doing to ensure that its products are not contributing to the breast cancer epidemic? Many companies sell pink ribbon products that are linked to increased risk of breast cancer because they contain unhealthy ingredients. Breast Cancer Action believes that companies that benefit by building a reputation based on concern about breast cancer have a responsibility to protect consumers from possible harms. I'll talk about an example for this critical question in just a couple of minutes, but I do want to emphasize again that if you have any doubts about a pink ribbon product, consider donating directly to a breast cancer organization that's serving a need that you believe in instead. Gail, did you have an example on this one?
No, I think it's a good time to move on.
Okay, great. All right, so an example for this exposure to toxins critical question is raise a stink. So pinkwashing reached a new low this year. In 2010, as I mentioned a little earlier, Susan G. Komen for the Cure commissioned a perfume from a company called TPR Holdings that's called Promise Me, that contains unlisted chemicals that are regulated as toxic and hazardous, that have not been adequately evaluated for human safety, and that have demonstrated negative health effects. Two ingredients that we have concerns about are galaxolide, which is a synthetic musk that works as a hormone disruptor and has been found in blood, breast milk, and even newborns, and toluene, a potent neurotoxicant that's linked to a variety of negative health effects, and it's known as one of the toxic trio. It's also banned by the International Fragrance Association. Pinkwashing like this has to stop once and for all. We're urging Komen to join us in putting patients before profits by taking every precaution when it comes to the ingredients on the pink ribbon products that they promote. We need to adopt the highest precautionary standards to protect women and men from suspected health threats, and we need Komen's help to do this. Imagine if Komen joined us, what a difference that could make. A breast cancer organization like Komen should not be commissioning and promoting a product that puts women's health at risk. We need your help. We need your help to reach our goal of 10,000 letters to Komen by the end of October. Send a letter, then tell 10 of your friends to do the same. Follow up with them. Help us urge Komen to recall Promise Me. You can go to bcaction.org/raise-a-stink to take action now. And there are some other ways you can make action speak louder than pink this month and beyond. I'll say it again, if you do one thing this October, we want you to send a letter to Komen and tell 10 of your friends about Raise a Stink. It's really going to take a lot of us telling everyone we know to send letters and following up with them. In addition to that, you should get your free Think Before You Pink toolkit from our website. It was just launched this month. It's full of information on our Think Before You Pink campaign, on Raise a Stink, and there are lots of concrete ways you can take action in it. You can download it from our website. I have the URL is listed on the screen. Gail?
And yes, thank you. If you use Facebook or Twitter, let your friends and your followers know that you're concerned that breast cancer is being exploited for profit and that raising money at any cost is not something that you support. Let them know that you care about ending pinkwashing and that you care about spreading awareness of breast cancer that is accurate, meaningful, and respectful. And more people really are letting their voices be heard. They're writing letters to companies, writing blogs, writing letters to the editor and op-ed pieces for their local papers. And it's a great way to let the industry know that you're watching, that you're listening, and that you're acting. Kim?
Thank you. You can also go to the Breast Cancer Action website for opportunities to support systemic policy change at the federal level that would make the products we use safer and the environment we live in healthier. You can support the Safe Chemicals Act and the Safe Cosmetics Act, which were each introduced earlier this year.
And you can also join the conversation by following the Pink Ribbon Blues blog. Check out the Tools for Action page for ideas on how you can learn more about key issues related to the culture and the industry that has grown up around breast cancer. And you can share this information. You can act on it. Intervening in the culture can be very, very powerful. You can even ask the person at the checkout counter where the money from those pink eyeglasses actually go. And if they don't know, tell them why it's important to find out. Kim?
And finally, you can donate to an organization that you care about. There are so many organizations that are doing good work to eliminate the environmental toxins that threaten people's health and that serve women who have breast cancer. And providing a donation to them is a really great way to take action as well. So if you found this webinar to be helpful for you today, please do consider contributing to Breast Cancer Action. Your individual support of our work is absolutely crucial. We don't take money from any companies that profit from or contribute to the breast cancer epidemic. And if you found this webinar to be helpful, please do consider making a donation of $25 or more so we can continue this type of work. We want to spend the rest of our time together today answering any questions that you might have. So a reminder, if you haven't done this before, there should be a question box on your screen that you can type in a question. I will receive it, and then we can go about answering those. And in the meantime, I want to thank Gail again for joining us and providing her valuable insight to this webinar.
Thank you, Kim.
Okay, it looks like our first question is, are we opposed to all-cause marketing? That's a really good question, and it's something that Breast Cancer Action is asked a lot, especially this time of year. We're really opposed to companies profiting from an improved image, in this case, caring about breast cancer, if they manufacture products that are linked to the disease or if they aren't transparent about the money, where the money is going. And I think a good gauge for that is sort of examining through our critical questions for conscious consumers what is going on with that cause marketing. Gail, do you have anything to add about that?
Yeah, thank you. I think another important consideration with that, since there are so many cause marketing programs, is to consider also what the information is that's included, both the content and the tone of what those campaigns are about. I have analyzed numerous campaigns, and with those cause marketing campaigns, of course, comes advertising. It's a market-based orientation, and advertisements can be very slick. They usually appeal to emotion, and they usually appeal to both fear of breast cancer, but hope for the future, and the goodness of supporting the cause. And of course, they'll tell you how to support it by buying their product. But what always also accompanies these advertisements is some kind of health information. And across the board, I have seen information that is inaccurate, that is lacking in context, or that creates an impression that is not really true around the disease itself. So I actually am also promoting that organizations that want to partner with companies, that they also have a strong say in the content of the marketing that goes along with those products.
That's great. Thank you, Gail. Well, we've got some good questions coming in. The first one here I received is, has Komen agreed to change their Promise Me perfume ingredients due to your concern? That's a great question. So yes, they have, and there's a caveat to that. So due to the concerns that Breast Cancer Action and a lot of other consumers have raised, Komen has agreed that they are going to reformulate their perfume for next year when they release it again. The concern that we have about that, while we're happy that, of course, that they are, it sounds like they want to move forward by taking these concerns about chemicals into account in the reformulation. We're still very concerned that the original product is still on store shelves and in people's homes. They are not, at least as of yet, recalling the product. And that, gravely concerns us because women have bought this product, are still using it, and they're being exposed to galaxolide and toluene and a number of other chemicals anytime that they use it. So that's what our Raise the Stink campaign is all about. It's about targeting Komen and telling them we want them to recall the perfume so that women and people. It's a great question. The next question. Oh, Gail, I'm sorry. Did you have a comment?
Oh, yeah. I just want, and this is actually more a question for you.
Sure.
I actually I wrote my letter, or sent my letter to Komen as well, and I got their letter back.
Oh, yes.
And one of the things that it states is that according to our research, their research, the ingredients found in Promise Me are within fragrance and cosmetic industry standards, and that these levels have not been shown to elevate breast cancer risk in people. I'm wondering if you would respond to that.
Yeah, absolutely. What our response is to that is that although that's certainly true that they're within the current standards, the standards are outdated and they're not protective of human health. And we think that a breast cancer organization, one that works toward protecting women's health, needs to adopt the highest precautionary standards and put women's health before their fundraising needs. This is a great question too about sort of why are they allowed to put these types of chemicals into a product. The Safe Cosmetics Act, which I mentioned earlier, would reformulate what the current regulatory system is for cosmetics, which is incredibly outdated. I believe it was from the 1930s that the current law stands. And basically the FDA has extremely little power right now to require full disclosure of of ingredients on product labels, and doesn't even have the power to recall products that have dangerous chemicals in them. So something that Breast Cancer Action advocates is both reforming this law and passing the Safe Cosmetics Act of 2011, but also beyond that, and this is why we're targeting Komen, is really asking Komen and any other companies that produce products that they have pink ribbons on that they promote for the benefit of breast cancer fundraising, that they cannot have chemicals or other harmful things in them. It's just really essential, and they must adopt a precautionary standard of health. So another question we got is to please give examples of things that community-based groups can do for Breast Cancer Awareness Month that go beyond pink ribbons. That's a great question, and there's a number of different things. I would suggest number one, our Think Before You Pink toolkit is free. It's downloadable from our Breast Cancer Action website, and it contains a lot of different ways to take action. There's a whole section at the end on action, and some of those things include things like supporting legislation, as I just mentioned, on writing a letter to the editor or an op-ed. I think those can be extremely powerful coming from organizations, and organizations in particular, if they have community support and have stories from the women that they work with, those can be incredibly powerful and could be published in your local paper and you would have sort of get your voice out in the community. In addition to that, you can use your social media platforms, if you're on Facebook and Twitter, to change the conversation around breast cancer and ask questions about what you think is really important in ending the epidemic. And then we also have something a little more fun, a Think Before You Pink quiz that we provide in the toolkit that can be sort of used as a way to raise awareness about pink ribbon products and the October awareness stuff. Those are some great ways to get involved. Gail, do you have any other ideas? I know you have a lot of suggestions on your blog as well.
Yeah, and there are a lot of people, both formally as formal organizations as well as groups of people, college students in colleges around the country are taking actions on their campuses. And some of the really creative things people are doing, I know there's a group at Vassar College who have put together kind of a pinking hall of shame. And they're actually putting together profiles of products that they are encouraging people not to use. And you could actually take the critical questions from Breast Cancer Action and apply them. Just go through the grocery store, make a list, and you could put that out to your community. There are some students also at another college who have looked at breast cancer ads. They actually downloaded a number of the advertisements from my photo gallery on Pink Ribbon Blues. They took especially the sexy ones out, and they took the text off of the advertisements, and they did focus groups at their school where they had people ask people if they knew what the ads were for. And it was really interesting, just an interesting way to raise people's consciousness to actually take advertising seriously, marketing seriously. And I'm sure that there are hundreds of more interesting and creative ways to get that word out.
That's great. Those are some really nice suggestions. The next question we have, let's see, is how these pink products defend their product or cause involvement against the concerns we're bringing to light. That's a great question. Gail, do you want to talk a little bit about that? I know you're quite the, the expert on this issue.
Would you just repeat the question again?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. How do pink products, or I guess the companies that produce them, defend their products or their cause involvement against any concerns that people bring up?
I think, in general, the culture and industry that has come up in the contemporary branded version of breast cancer awareness, it really is oriented to a market-based system. And we've kind of bought in, well, no pun intended, bought into that. The idea that if you just throw money at something, we're going to fix the problem. And I think that as corporations have joined on to the cause, they really take on that approach. Hey, we're giving money, so nothing else matters. And that's the way it tends to be justified. And as corporations have been in a position where they need to show that they are contributing to the well-being of society, joining on to causes has been a way to do that. But cause marketing is kind of the perfect storm because it is essentially a type of marketing first and a charitable contribution second. And they've sold it, they've packaged it well, and people have bought it.
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, our concern is that every year consumers are spending millions of dollars, if not more, on these pink ribbon items, and they're being led to believe essentially that their purchases are going to help end the breast cancer epidemic. But more often than not, the purchases just aren't as effective as people think, as you were saying, Gail. Like the very little money from the purchase goes to programs on, programs or research, or to sort of an issue area that people are are really hoping that the money will go to. So very little money goes from these pink ribbon products goes to prevention, if any. So, and to us, a company's defense of maybe it's, oh well, we are contributing something, it's better than doing nothing. That's just not good enough. And yeah, that's what we keep emphasizing.
Yeah, and in some ways, it's not only not good enough, but it's getting in the way of action that could actually be better. So I think, that's part of the consideration, too, that siphoning money away from other activities, other programs, other organizations that are really trying to get at the bottom of the epidemic, that's an issue with it, too.
Absolutely. Another question we got is Think Before You Pink a direct response to Komen? And that's another excellent question. It's not a direct response to Komen. It was, it was started in 2002 in response to just the growing concern about the prevalence of pink ribbon products on the market. And while Komen, of course, is a big promoter of pink ribbon products, and in fact, really sort of owns a portion of the market on that, the campaign calls for transparency and accountability by any company or organization that promotes pink ribbon products. This year, of course, we happen to be targeting the perfume commissioned by Komen because we think it's a particularly bad example of pinkwashing, and we believe that a breast cancer organization should not be promoting products that are bad for women's health. Let's see, more questions. Okay. The next one I have here is, what can consumers do. And that's, it's I know it can feel, I think it can feel as a consumer that you're a little powerless, or that it's hard to take action because you're just bombarded from all angles whenever you're out and about in October in particular. But, growing, there's the pink stuff is really growing year-round. But, I think using the critical questions for conscious consumers that Breast Cancer Action has developed, we actually have wallet cards with the critical questions on them that are a part of our toolkit, and that's, again, it's available on the website. That's a great way to take action. You can keep those with you in your wallet whenever you're at the grocery store or at other stores. You can share them with your friends and family. And then another thing that consumers can do, I think, is following an organization that you care about on Facebook or Twitter and finding out what campaigns they're involved in. And so, like, for example, sharing, taking action on Raise the Stink, maybe telling your friends about that as well, and donating directly to organizations that you think are doing good work is another great way for consumers to take action. Using your dollars, instead of buying a pink ribbon product, but using that money instead to donate directly to an organization that has programs or services that you think are contributing to the elimination of the breast cancer epidemic. It's a fabulous way to be involved. Any other thoughts, Gail? I know you're, obviously you have a ton of other ideas from your blog, especially, I think.
Yeah, well, I think the criteria that BCA has set out with the critical questions is a great way. Just apply those across the board. But it's also important to acknowledge that people are not always in a position to just say no to pink products. My sister is a hairstylist, and she was telling me earlier today that she had gone into her beauty supply store to get products for her shop, and it's a private shop. And she walked in, and they had an entire display of all of these pink products, and they were encouraging her to buy. Said no, and she told them why, and they understood. And then they said, but we can't do anything about it because they were sent to our store. We have to keep them. And so the managers of that store didn't have any real say in the products that came in through their store. But my sister did have a say, and so she decided not to use those products. So we just have to do what's within our power, and some of it's not within our power. But if we can say no, we can say no.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, we shouldn't discount the everyday conversations that we have with people. I think that, that kind of goes back to the Charlotte Haley message, who was the founder of the Peach Ribbon originally. And it was a real grassroots campaign of hers. She used those ribbons to talk to her friends and neighbors and family members about how unfair she thought it was that so little of the funding of the National Cancer Institute was being prioritized for cancer prevention. And she did it one person at a time, person to person. And that's really how the word got out. I mean, Self Magazine and Estee Lauder heard about her because she did a lot of fabulous grassroots organizing. So it's important to remember that having those conversations with our friends and neighbors is really going to be helpful in changing the tide of this. Good, we have a couple more questions that have come in just now. This woman says that she met the CEO for Komen of the greater New York City area, and she indicated supporting underserved communities with integrative and holistic health initiatives. Any idea how to follow up? So I guess I'm not totally clear on whether that's something that Komen is talking about doing. It seems like if that's the case, then that that may be a really great way for them to support underserved communities. But I think in particular, Komen does seem to focus quite a bit on providing mammography to folks or mammograms to folks in underserved communities. And the concern that Breast Cancer Action has raised before is that if what type of services is Komen or other folks providing to women who are then diagnosed with breast cancer after they get the mammography? Is it going to be is that going to be sort of covered or prioritized as a way of assisting underserved communities?
Yeah, I have a comment on that too.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think, a lot of what we've been talking about in terms of Komen really involves the Komen leadership and policy. It's a level at the Komen parent organization. And I don't know if this person is referring to an affiliate or not, but it gets me thinking about how there is a distinction between the Komen parent organization and the affiliates themselves. Sometimes they look almost exactly like the parent organization, and other times they really don't. So the money that stays in communities, affiliates decide what to do with that money. And I know there are a number of affiliates around the country that have used that money to create health centers in their communities that go beyond mammography, that provide help to people who are low income. And so it really does vary. And I think that distinction is really important to make, that much of the critique is around high-level leadership and policy.
That's a really good point, Gail. Absolutely. Let's see. One other question. I think we've got a few more minutes. Yeah, we've got a few more minutes. One other question we got was, how can Komen and others get away with putting bad ingredients in their products? I think I tried to explain this a little earlier, but I don't think I did a fabulous job at it, so I'll try again. So manufacturers don't currently have to disclose the ingredients in fragrance in particular, because there is a regulatory gap in the Federal Fair Packaging and Labeling Act from 1973. And the FDA does not have the authority currently to require manufacturers to test cosmetics and fragrances for safety before they are sold to consumers. It's shocking, but it's true. Many chemicals in fragrance have not been assessed for safety, and that includes some of the ones that were found in Promise Me. But because Breast Cancer Action has worked with the folks at the Campaign for Safe Cosmetics before, we and a number of other breast cancer organizations, we've kind of developed concerns about cosmetic safety, nail product safety, and fragrance safety. And we had this fragrance made by, or commissioned, I should say, by Komen, tested at an independent lab, discovered that there were these chemicals of concern in it that have, ingredients with demonstrated negative health effects. And then one of the most shocking things to us, actually, was that the ingredients were not actually disclosed on the packaging. So, people who are buying this product don't even know what is actually in the product. And that's a big concern. So unfortunately, that is, because of these gaps in our regulatory system, that's why Komen was able, and other companies, not just Komen, they're able to produce fragrances and cosmetics that do not necessarily put people's health first. And we really think that has to change, for a number of reasons. In this particular case, it's egregious because Komen is a breast cancer organization that is, working on behalf of women, and we really want them to be able to, we want them to take the highest precautionary standard to put women's health first before the fundraising needs of the organization. So if you haven't done so already, I urge everybody who's on the call to go to our website and send a letter to Komen and follow up with your friends. If you're on Facebook, post to your Facebook profile to send a letter to Komen. We're trying to get 10,000 letters before the end of the month, and we really need your help to do it.
How many letters have been sent so far, Kim?
I think we're at about 3,000 letters so far, which we're very excited about. And we're, but we're still a little ways away, and we know we can do it. We just need everybody to take action, and we need people to follow up with everybody that they know. So we've got a couple minutes left. I'm actually at the end of the questions. I'll give everybody just a second to see if any other questions come in. So please know that Gail and I will be here for a couple more minutes. I've really enjoyed talking to everybody today. And I thank you so much again, Gail. We really appreciate you co-hosting this webinar with us. It was fun to do with you.
Thank you. Thanks for doing what you do.
You too. And everybody, remember to tune in on Sunday evening. Gail is going to be featured on NPR's All Things Considered. It should be, you'll probably have to check your local NPR affiliate to find out what time it's being broadcast in your area. And again, I'm not seeing any other questions. So what we'll do is if you have a question after the broadcast is over, you can send it to info@bcaction.org. And thank you so much for attending. Send a letter to Komen today. Go to our website and watch your email for a short survey afterwards where you can provide feedback on this webinar. Thank you. Thanks again, Gail.
Thank you, everybody.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.